Mm.
Well, welcome everyone. So, having just been guided through the process of how to record on Zoom again, we'll record. So, yeah, just want to welcome. We've got a smattering of folks from various far-flung places. So, I think we're going to start with some introductions. And Robert was about to launch into that very thing before we realized we weren't recording. So, Robert, as you were.
As I was. And what did I say last time? Because I have to make sure I say the same thing to make sure it's still true. Why we the last time we did this group chat, we did ask where we are, why we're here, what's our passion and what brought us to this discussion. So I'll perhaps use that as my template. I'm in Jersey in the Channel Islands, somewhere between the south coast of England and the north coast of France. That's where I am. Why am I here? The reason I'm here is because about, 18 months ago or more, I got in touch with Andy Freeman, who used to administer Proust. I don't know if either of those words are correct in this context. He used to administer Proust, but it obviously went into a permanent hiatus type situation a couple of years back, and I contacted him to ask whether there were any plans for it. I then, over the course of 2023, I contacted a number of people who had been involved in Proust in its history, to see whether they were still interested in Proust. And in January 2024, Sir Chris of Gowan contacted me and said, "Stop talking about it, let's do something." So that's precisely why we're here. We're going to see what we can do.
Still not doing
Still
anything.
talking. Well, still talking. But let's see what we can do and see if we can get some outcome from this.
Yeah.
So that is me for the purpose of this.
Okay. And I am that Chris. I've had some background with Proust in relation to doing some publishing through Proust and also doing some bits and pieces of curating of other materials. And it was just a lovely thing to be part of. So when Rob kind of started talking about the possibility of reviving it, then we thought, hey, let's see what we can do. But of course, then the discussion is, well, yeah, what we were doing 20 years ago is probably different from what we maybe need to be doing now, and what is different, and how is it different. So the rest of the discussions that have unfolded, which we've tried to do as openly and as out there as possible, have been trying to chew on some of that and think about where we are now, not just within sort of a cultural context, which I guess would be different anyway, because the cultural contexts are, across the Western world, have their individual nuances, but also just within the Christian world, which is in a very different situation than maybe it was even 20 years ago. And what does that even mean anymore to me personally, let alone to the people that are not attending or are attending? What is the story that we're bringing now into where we are and who we are? So they're some of the things that we're still, and I'm because I can lose myself in some of those ponderings quite easily. I'm conscious that alongside that we need to actually just get stuck in and follow some of these loose threads that we've started to pick at. Let's just start tying them together. So yeah, that's who I am. Oh, sorry, I should add, I'm up in Scotland, and in case you didn't know, Rob is in Guernsey, which is about as far as you can. No, Jersey, the other one. Is if you say you're from Guernsey, is that like saying you're Australian if you're from New Zealand, or you're Canadian if you're American or something?
Possibly.
Yeah. Okay.
Possibly.
Ali, I'm waving to you, by the way. Ali. Sorry, I am literally waving to you. That's all, because Ali is in Glasgow, which is almost line of sight to where I am.
Oh, right. Yeah, almost. I was thinking, where am I then?
Yeah, that's right. Hang on a second.
You threw me a little bit there.
Yeah, well, 20 miles, that's not much.
20 miles. Yeah, it's not far. not far. Yeah.
Oh,
You want me to
Yeah,
go?
yeah, just go on you go.
All right, okay. So I'm Ali Matthew, and I've had some connections with Proust on and off for a while, in various different ways, having used their resources, and also as contributor and co-editor of one of the poetry collections. Yeah, and I've got links with CMS as well. And I live in Glasgow. I've just moved back home after 30 odd years in England, between London and Oxford. And I'm a full-time priest in the Scottish Episcopal Church. And I'm minister in a small church on the south side of Glasgow. And that's me.
Thank you.
thank you.
Ant, swinging
Hey.
at a beer.
I do have a beer.
You're
Well
making
done.
me jealous, Ant. I'm wishing I had a beer.
Sorry, Alison.
That's all right.
Now's the time. I'm talking, so now's the time to run and get one. All right.
I haven't got any in the house, unfortunately.
Oh my word! There must be some communion wine stashed in a cupboard somewhere, Ali.
Yeah.
Actually, do you know, there's a bottle of red in the kitchen. So,
There you go.
you know, I
Yeah.
might just do that. Anyway, I'll
Right.
go for it.
Yeah, so I'm Ant. I did an interview recently, a podcast, which was really good fun to do as a musician. I'm also dad of four. I run a digital agency in Sheffield, England, and that pretty much sums it up, I suppose. I'm also an artist, fine artist. I'm in the middle of a painting. Just something different to add in there. And I'm well into entomology. I love taking really close-up photos of insects and that kind of stuff. So
Yes, you do.
yeah, sorry about that, Rob. If you follow my Instagram, that's literally all that's been on there for the past 2 months. So.
Some exotic creatures.
Mm.
Wow. Okay. Is that you then, Ant? So, with a name like that, you know, taking an entomologist called Ant, you know, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, really, mate.
It was going to happen at some point, wasn't it?
Obviously so, yeah.
Just hope I don't get stepped on.
Your next one needs to be a selfie of you.
Yes.
A close-up.
Yeah.
Selfie.
Nostril hair or something.
Oh,
what?
Oh, thanks, Ant.
You just put an idea in his head now, haven't you? This is the problem.
I need to see what that looks like. Clearly.
James.
Hello. Yeah, so I'm James and live currently in a little place called Pottsville, right on the east coast of Australia, just 25 minutes north of Byron Bay. Most people have heard of Byron Bay it's a famous travel destination. Lived here pretty much 10 years, I think, and originally from Sheffield in the UK. Do miss the UK, love the UK. And that's a whole debate in itself around whether you're an immigrant or an expat. I would consider myself an immigrant personally. But yeah, that's where I am. Why I'm here, I've got no connection to Proust whatsoever until the last kind of 3 or 4 months when Ant messaged me. Ant's my best friend, by the way. That's the connection. And yeah, he said, "Oh, I'm going on this podcast." I had heard of Proust previously in the iteration that you mentioned about with Lawrence, and when he released an album way back, because I'm a friend of Lawrence as well, so I got a copy of that album back then. So I was aware of Proust, but had no connection or involvement whatsoever. And then I've listened to pretty much all of the podcasts you guys have put out in the last few months, and almost maybe that's part of the thing that becomes Proust next. That some of the really interesting people and different perspectives that you've had on. I've forgotten the lady's name. Was it Yvonne, the singer?
Yvonne.
Is
Yeah,
that her
Yvonne
name?
Lyon.
Yvonne, yeah. Yeah, and then Katie Cross as well. That was fascinating. So yeah, so maybe that's a good thing to do, like really broad range of people. And so yeah, I'm interested in that, I suppose. And yeah, I've got no idea what my involvement might be, but yeah, I just really enjoyed listening so far. So
Oh,
thanks
well,
for
thank
thanks
you
for
very
doing
much.
it.
Wow.
What,
Well,
James, can I ask you, sorry, what do you do in the daytime? What are you going to do in 2 hours' time?
Yeah, good question. So at the moment, my day job at the moment is I'm project manager for a sustainable and natural construction company. And I've got a few variants of self. So that's one of them. My other one is I've got a business that I'm trying to sell, and that has caused me some of the hardest years of my life.
Oh,
And that's I'm in the middle of trying to sell that, and if not, just get rid of it because I've had enough. But that's a natural, non-toxic insulation product from Germany. So I've been importing that for around 6 years. But yeah, day job at the moment, project management.
right, thank you. And you're a drummer.
Yes, and also that's another version of myself. I'm a drummer, musician. I'm currently in my little drum studio at the moment.
Ah,
wow.
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you very much. Michaela, you have risen to that point of the queue because Chris dropped down for some reason.
But I didn't hear the question.
Well, it was just introductions and what brought you here, and what sort of things you do. That's those sort of questions, really.
Oh well, sorry I was late joining the meeting, but we have Chris and I do pottery for a living, and we had a pop-up shop today, and I just got in and wolfed some dinner. So, well, pop-up shop for the week actually, but it was my turn today. Yeah, that's what we do.
In case it's not obvious, Michaela is my wife, and she's in the next room. So there you go. Chris.
Hello. Sorry. Yes, I realised I left the door open, and I've got a 7-year-old just going to bed, so I've had to go. I had to go and shut it. So I'm another Chris. My involvement with Proust was initially as a consumer, of pretty much anything Proust produced was what I was looking for, and I think that's because I found myself on the edge of traditional church communities where I lived. But I then got slightly more involved through the Proust poetry collections, co-editing one of those as Ali did, and I then had my own collection published by Proust as well. In the daytime, I'm a former civil servant. I now work for a trade union with committees of members there, which is essentially just something I do to be able to do something else. Although because I have a 7-year-old, I don't really do that at the moment either. But I have been at various points a playwright. I've had co-wrote a Radio 4 pilot that was never broadcast, and I've made podcasts for 10 years. I know we never even recorded it in the end, but yeah, yeah. I've made a podcast for 10 years with 3 friends about Doctor Who, writing scripts and silly songs about what was being broadcast at the time. Yeah, and I'm still a poet, just not particularly active one at the moment. And I always should say where I am. I'm on the edge of London and Kent at the moment, though hopefully in about 3 or 4 weeks' time, I will be in Shaftesbury and Dorset.
Lovely.
Wow. Well, all the best with the gathering and the moving.
Are you still doing the podcast then, Chris?
Oh, that's a more difficult question than you know.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, but no.
Okay,
I think
fair enough.
we are, I think, in name, but we recorded some a few months ago. But all of us find it difficult to find the time to sit and edit, sketches and then like produce the audio landscape for it and stuff. It just the soundscapes. It's just too much to do in the quick time window we give ourselves. So we sort of haven't released anything for a while.
Right. Okay.
It's always occurred to me that the digital creation thing is a time hole in which you can just lose weeks of your life very quickly. I'm in awe of people who've got the patience for video editing or for sound mixing, and because I just can't be asked. It just takes forever, and then you add in another forever after that, doesn't it?
I find I find that kind of thing really hard by yourself as well. It takes a really long time by yourself. So it's a strange experience.
Which is an interesting thought when we're talking about, potentially putting together a platform whereby we'll be gathering digital resources and having to find a way of showcasing that and putting it in a package that is, it can be found and can be encountered and consumed. But anyway, I suppose I'm getting ahead of myself there. Rob, is it worth starting with just like a little bit of a run through of just connecting us with our first chat? I've got the list of questions that we optimistically prepared for the last chat, and I think we got through about maybe 2.5 of them for the reasons which will be obvious when you look at what they are. We talked a lot about the old Proust and what people's memories were, and there's lots of really good stuff there. It was quite heartening to remember again how much it had meant to people. And I know how much it meant to me, but that seems to be a fairly common experience.
Hang on.
It's going to be a hole in the sound now. So somebody was about to speak and then nobody did. Was that you, Rob?
Well, it's just I'm having a bit of a problem with my interweb.
Right.
It keeps coming up saying that I'm getting a lot of jittering and whatever that word is that they do on.
You need to put another 50p or whatever they use for
Well, I need to do
Jersey
so. I'm just putting that
meter.
as a warning that it keeps coming up saying your network bandwidth is low, which I really have no idea what that means.
Are you on a fixed computer, Rob?
I am on a fixed computer.
So you can't move it closer to the router?
No, I can't move it closer to
You
the
can't
router.
hold it up outside and looking for a satellite like you do when you can't go phone.
Yeah, that's right.
This is the first time I've ever had a problem with it because it's a mesh system. Is that?
Now don't start talking technology
sense
that you
to
know
anyone?
nothing about. Yes.
I would just say if you disconnected from internet, reconnected it, you're likely to connect to the nearest one again.
Although it
and
looks
might be a
fine this
stronger
end,
connection.
so we can hear you. So let's not worry about it until we have to.
Tell you what, if I stop my video, you'll still hear my voice.
That's
but
true.
at least
But you're fine right now. It's much better.
It looks fine this end.
it was you who's cutting out, Chris, when you were talking. That was a problem.
That was probably the editing feature that you've installed.
AI.
So we then were talking a little bit about the changes or otherwise or not in the landscape of faith. And I reflected a lot on that discussion afterwards because I kind of feel it's very easy for my own perspective or our own perspective to influence what you see. And because I'm someone that finds myself outside church, that is very kind of know a lot of other people in that same kind of situation, it's very easy for me to see that as as what the world looks like now. And I remember there was a lovely moment last time, Ali, when you were talking about your experience of actually still the life and the love and the kind of grace that you see within the institutions that you've been part of. And that was beautiful. So, I think we have to acknowledge that one, our perspectives will influence some of that stuff, but also that there are these different places, these different worlds, these different resonances that are happening still anyway. And that's just how things will have to be. And I suspect that discussion, will feed into at some point to any editing or any choosing of resources or things that we do. But I suspect as well that we can't predict what that's going to be like yet. We just need to maybe have a little bit of a think about it and a chew on it as and when we come to that point. Any other thoughts on that kind of bit of the discussion from last time, though, before we move on from it? Should we need to move on from it?
If I could throw a few thoughts at that.
Yeah.
Because obviously I was listening to that podcast last time. I think that's what fascinates me about, it's almost like an obsession that there has to be this or that. Whereas actually, overall, the message of God, of the Bible, of the Gospels, is universal. But I think the application of the message is not universal. It's context specific. And I think Alison made a good point. I think you asked the question, like, what even is church? Like, what? Because obviously, just using those broad terms, I don't think that's very helpful, because it kind of suggests that there is this overriding application of what church should be in all contexts, in all situations. And it kind of mistakes the message being universal with the church being universal. Whereas I would suspect that, like Alison said, her experiences are very much positive because they're very much connected to the context in which she lives with the people that she shares her life with. And correct me if I'm wrong there, Alison, but I would imagine that's fairly true.
Yeah, I think that's right, James. I think, I mean, I haven't had a universally, to coin the phrase, a positive experience. Church has not always been positive for me. You know, it's like any institution, there are ups and downs in it, and you know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in church that I really struggle with. But I think when I paid it back to its core, like my last experience where I was working in Oxfordshire and then here, there's just been an awful lot of love and an awful lot of grace. And actually that for me means a huge amount. And I kind of, for me, that is kind of keeping the main thing. And some of the extraneous stuff that happens, I just kind of have to go, you know, and just kind of live with it, really, because it's never. I've kind of realised that it's never ever going to be that perfect institution. That's never going to be, because that's not the reality of how we live as human beings. But yeah, there's enough love and grace there that keeps me there. Yeah, so far.
Yeah, and I think that's what seems obvious to me. And I know, because like me and Ant talk about this kind of stuff quite a lot, and so I'm aware that sometimes I might sound like I'm a little bit ethereal or whatnot, but I'm certainly on more of the mystic bent of things. But it seems obvious to me that that is absolutely valid. Of course it is, and that all of it is valid. It doesn't matter whether it's big, small, you know, Anglican, Baptist, all the iterations of church that people use as I suppose expressions. It doesn't really matter, as long as nobody makes out that one is more important than the other, or that the message of Christ or Jesus must be applied in this way in every context, because it just simply can't. And that's the great freedom of it for me. That's what I'm fascinated with. That's the great beauty of it, that it just transcends all of that. And I think everybody, and I think you said it, Chris, actually, where you said our perspectives influence what we look at or how we perceive things. That's so true, because it's almost like that perception that we have based on our experience and our church history is immediately projected into whatever new thing we're experiencing or what we want to look towards or change to. And it actually can stop us doing that, because it's too easy to default back to the easy, default back to what we're familiar with. And I think, you know, just allowing a bit of grace on ourselves sometimes to go, actually, do you know what? That's totally valid, and I can thank it for what it was, what it meant to me. But it's now, I've changed, that's changed, and just moving forwards and continuing positive relationships, I suppose. Or, well, not necessarily positive, because that implies that negative relationships aren't always good. It's that balance, isn't it? It's always balance.
Yeah. I think there's a lot just in those sentences you just said have pretty much described the journey that a lot of us have been on anyway. You know, it's the spiral dynamics idea of including and transcending, isn't it? That we take the best of what we've experienced and allow it to still be a part of what emerges that won't necessarily be the same. That's not necessarily, I mean, it's easy to say that. It's not actually often easy to do that. And I think one of the strengths of the old Proust is that it was very willing to accept difference, or was kind of a free, open space, which was well, certainly those of us that were involved in it perceived it as that. I'm not sure that was necessarily true to people that were on the outside of that clique, which is, you know, but generally speaking, I think we can be proud in the way that people were encouraged to pursue things that were a bit of left of centre sometimes, and that people were encouraged and included in ways that perhaps they wouldn't have been in other parts of the church. Is that Chris, you're nodding? Is that your experience too? Or?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing that's coming to my mind is a conversation we may have had it as a group of editors on the Proust poetry collections, where I think you said that what we wanted this to be was Christian with a small c, to make sure it isn't kind of doesn't allow itself to get kind of pigeonholed into one narrow category. And I think that the phrase that's kind of circling around my head now is that we're looking at something that caters to church with a small c, because that can mean whatever someone looking at it wants it to be, or understands it to be to them. And I mean that feels entirely in the same ethos as Proust came across to me in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michaela, any thoughts?
No, I don't know. I think after the last chat, there was talk about church, everything's church with a small c kind of thing, and I found myself reacting to that. I can't remember who it was that said it. It was somebody that's not in the meeting tonight. Even if we're not in established church, then what we're doing is still church. But I think I don't know if I can use that word.
Yeah.
But I guess it's encompassing church with a capital C, church with a small c, and I don't know, community or something else.
Yes.
So it's all of them, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had quite a discussion about that, didn't we, in the last group chat about that. I won't say people were trying to say that whatever you're doing is church in a way, because I realised that through that conversation that for some people that might be a trigger in itself, and an unhelpful trigger to feel like there's a certain element of people who feel like that anything you do, they have to call it church, whatever it is. I think me and Chris must have had this conversation. You know, whatever you're doing, it's your way of doing church. It might be, and you go, well, actually, I don't recognise it like that. That's not why I do it. It's not what I call it. Please don't give it a name to make you feel comfortable with what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I suppose a lot of that comes from people's positive experiences of church, doesn't it? Which is a lovely thing.
Yeah.
You know, but if you've not got those experiences, then it's a harder thing, if you know what I mean. And I did feel a bit unsettled by it. It's almost like we've got to define what Proust is without defining what it is.
We did say that, didn't we? Yeah.
I'm not sure we do necessarily have to define these things anyway. I think I suppose it's useful only in the sense of you know, we are looking for alliances. We're looking to create community, and at this point of any project, I think we all probably bring very different ideas as to what that's going to look like to the table. And at some point that will get real, but it will probably get real for reasons that we can't necessarily see coming anyway. Although I guess some of these things might yet be in the mix, and we might have to come up with some kind of way of resolving or including or whatever. So how these things do fit together. But I think generally speaking, I think Rob and I had a long chat about this afterwards. Our general feeling is, look, we're just trying to reach towards goodness. Let's just let it flow and see and try and include wherever we find connection.
Yes.
And for me, that's naturally going to be in that diaspora of people outside church. For other people, it's going to be other groups, and that's absolutely fine. Ant, you've got your hand
I
up.
was just going to say,
school-like.
It was, yeah, I know. I was just going to say that if there are words that are triggering, words are really powerful, and if the words are triggering, we don't need to. We can move on without those words.
Yes,
It's really important to just be a group of people that are supporting each other and doing things that are significant for others or in our own lives, and sharing those, and those having spiritual significance for us personally and as a gift to others. Great. Brilliant.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
Before
we did start talking about defining it, and then we decided that, I think you're right, that A, it was next to impossible to define, and B, we could spend 6 months trying to define it, never being happy with the definition and wasting 6 months of our lives.
Indeed.
So
just one thing though that I think we did mention briefly is this business about diversity. Because I think it's probably worth mentioning again in the context of this discussion. It's been pointed out, or not just pointed out, it's been felt that Proust #1 was a very white middle class organization. It was quite male dominated. It was like the rest of the church. It was like the rest of the emerging church as was. This is another thing that Rob and I have talked about a lot, and the chat with Katie was really helpful for us to understand, just to have a set of a language that allowed us to kind of talk about that and think about that in a different kind of way. And the research that she's doing, the conversations she's having with people who have maybe had the rough end of some of that power structure that was created around church. Rob and I have been talking about this, and at the moment we're conscious that we can only make the connections that we can make. We're white middle class blokes of a certain age. So I think there's another one of those things that I think at the moment what we want to do is to keep mentioning it, keep talking about it, keep it as a live part of our conversation. And there will hopefully be the opportunities both in terms of being deliberate about how we set ourselves towards things, but also about who we include, what resources we look to showcase, all of those things where we start to reshape some of that.
I like that, and that's where you could be looking for diversity in those. That's great.
We could, although my general worry about that, Ant, is that I'm not sure that we would see diversity unless we kind of include that at centre. So I think that's the sort of discussions that we're having. How can people who don't have that lived experience understand what people in that other context that we're not part of are going to be finding helpful, going to be finding useful. So that there's a whole ongoing discussion, I think, that we need to be having about that.
It's an interesting one. I remember watching Chris from Coldplay being interviewed, and he got on, I don't know why he got onto this, but he was almost apologizing for the fact that they were 4 white guys, but they'd met at a really posh university in London and full of white people.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think, and they committed to each other, which was a really important part of their story. So I'm not sure why he feels so apologetic about that. It's not his fault.
No.
I'm sure that he wouldn't have been selective in that situation. So.
Yeah.
I think from our point of view, Anne, it was the chats that Chris and I have had about this have been, we don't want to have unconsciously exclude or just because we are who we are, we want to be very conscious and intentional about including all sorts of voices wherever they might come from. But the problem is that if you only, you end up in that echo chamber, don't you, where actually the people you're mixing with all have similar views and all do similar stuff, and therefore until you break out of that, or until people come in, and that's the point. I think we're very conscious that we want this place, this community, to be open and not, even though it might be a bit white middle class at the moment, maybe it doesn't have to be like that. That's not what we are. It's not by design, let's say.
So how to find
I think
these
that's
people?
good. I'll say.
Go on, James.
I was just going to say, I think it's good to remember that white Westerners only make up 20% of the global population of the planet. And the phrase is people of global majority are from Eastern cultures, the Middle East, South America, Latin America, Asia.
Yes.
And so that's a really important thing to remember. And then I think probably similar to what Ant might say, the fact that you guys are aware of that is really good. And then finding different places to, I suppose, engage with people. And the example I can give for me is when I had in my business that I'm trying to sell, I needed some staff. And I thought, if I go down the usual route, I'm not sure if you get Seek in the UK, but like LinkedIn or Seek or those kind of job platforms, I thought if I submit a post on that, I know I'm just going to get a heap of stuff from essentially white middle class people who fulfill the brief of what I'm looking for. I wasn't interested in that. So I went off and found some people in the local community and said, I want to employ someone who's Aboriginal. Where do I go to find connections with those people where it's not really about the skill? I'm not really interested in the skills that they've got to offer. I'm interested in who they are as a person. And then we can work out the skills later, because you can always, train people and get them to just do stuff in terms of systems and operations. So that's not really my concern. And I got taken in a few directions and connections and relationship. Oh, this person, my cousin, my auntie, they know someone does it. And then it just went from there. And that's how I found a staff member that I had. And so I think just the fact that you're open to it and look for it in unconventional avenues, I suppose.
Yeah.
Thanks, James. Kelly, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think just kind of concurring really. I suppose it's about being aware, but it is really hard to know where to go to reach different people, isn't it? But there's me and Ali so far in the group. We'll keep you right as much as we can.
Yes.
Chris and I were very involved in Greenbelt many years ago with the emerging church stuff. We were asked to do a talk on emerging church in rural settings, and none of the women in the group wanted to stand up and talk in front of 200 people. So it was 3 guys that did it. And we opened it up to questions.
It didn't go well.
The first question, the very first question, because I dutifully went around collecting pieces of paper off the audience with the questions on. First one out the hat: where are all the women? Are they at home making shortbread? And it was just absolutely mortifying, because it wasn't the case. We'd all, as a group, worked on it. We'd all planned the talk and everything. We didn't want to speak into the microphone. And so, yeah, it's kind of, that stayed with me, that kind of feeling, because it's how it looks sometimes, even though it's not, so it's being aware, but also being aware of how it comes across to other people and trying to make sure, because then other people do feel a part of it. If this, you kind of got to have a bit of diversity to increase the diversity, haven't you? That's the problem.
Yes.
But we can start with male and female, presume.
Yeah. I'm also conscious of just that discussion with Katie, that it's not just about how we kind of make connection. It's about how we learn about the spiritual bedrock of our being. Does that make sense? It seems to me that the margins, the Jesus story is about, something that grows in the margins of society, of everything. And so, I mean, I remember all the sort of the large community stuff about how Nuon and people like that were learning through making community with people of difference. That's one kind of strand of spirituality, which is quite important to people still. But I think beyond that, just again, the stuff that Katie was leading us through was much more about this affects everyone. It doesn't just affect Black people or gay people,
No.
or women who've been set aside. It affects. It's like a corrosive thing on everything. And so if we are to try and learn ourselves through that and liberate ourselves through that, it's not just about looking to publish materials from people from Palestine or something, although I'd love to do that. I've got this idea in my head about the connections between Celtic spirituality and indigenous spirituality in different parts of the world, including Australia, actually, James. I'm really fascinated about how, a lot of the language at different levels are very similar. A lot of the story told by Celtic spirituality maps quite well onto Aboriginal spirituality, for example. So I'd love for us to pursue that and see where does that take us? How does that become a resource? How does that become something which, maybe music grows from that, maybe art grows from that, maybe, so that there are ideas, but that will only be shaped in that direction because of our starting point and because of the ethos that we're seeking to kind of live through.
Well, people aren't stupid, are they? So I think people recognize when you're genuine in any culture, and that's been my experience. When you're genuine and you're honest and you clearly have an intent to engage in meaningful relationship, people can see that a mile off. It's when you fake and you pretend, or you go in with an agenda, like using in terms of the Aboriginal context, the whole thing around mission and kind of going somewhere to do something or evangelize these people. It just doesn't work because people can see through it immediately that it's just not genuine, and it has no bearing on the context in which they're in. So I think that having that intent is a really good thing that people respond well to.
Sure. Any other thoughts on that from Chris or Ali?
I think just agreeing with what people have said, really, that it is about intentionality and being, there's something about just remaining conscious that, that we don't want to slip into an unconscious bias kind of situation. We want to be conscious of it. Yeah. And I think it's a journey. Sorry.
No, you go. Carry on.
No, I was just saying, I think it's a journey, and we just have to constantly check in with ourselves and make sure that we're exploring in the right directions and trying to be open to people. Because we are, James is right, we are a minority world, really. We are the global minority. Yeah. Sorry, Rob.
The only thing I was going to add is that we sort of are where we are, and we are the group we are, and we can't change that bit, but we can change the direction we go in once we find the path to go there. And I think it's more important to set off and look for that path actively than it is to sit and wonder where it is.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's that Mark Twain quote, isn't it, about getting out of the safety of the harbour, catching the trade winds, and then just going wherever the wind's wild goose.
Yeah.
Mm. Peregrinatio and all that. Yes. Okay, so where we're up to? What time is it? That's 8:20. So how are we doing for time? Because there's another batch of things to talk to. Do you want anyone to take a break for anything at this point, and we grab a cup of tea?
Well, I've got 18 hours, so I'm all good.
You obviously exist without sleep, so you're still on UK time, but has been living in Australia for 10 years.
Yeah.
My word, James. Yeah.
I
My
probably have
apologies,
to go.
Ali. I might just go and get another beer.
Okie dokie.
Go for it.
I might go and get a glass of wine.
Good.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah,
will.
go on, do it.
I will stop recording then, and we'll go and do what we need to do, and we will reconvene shortly.
I probably have to go at some point soon.
Okay.
Yes. Okay,
I
Chris.
don't know that I can last that much longer, but I'll give it a go.
Well,
thank
done.
you.
Well, just
Thank you.
well,
Nice to meet you, Chris.
Chris, before you dodge off, then just let me give you a little bit of a pen picture of what you might miss. I mean, obviously you may listen to it again, you may not, but just we were going to talk a little bit about where we were up to generally in terms of the thinking of the structure of where we think we're heading. Obviously, all of these things are open to discussion, and that's probably obviously the core of that will be built around some kind of website platform where we can gather resources. But to have another strand to that, which is what we're loosely calling Proust Live. So we're conscious that a lot of the materials that were gathered under the old Proust days were through Greenbelt, through alternative worship platforms, through all that sort of thing that was going on elsewhere. Things that aren't happening anymore in that same kind of way. And that's not to say that none of that happens, but it doesn't happen through Greenbelt in that gathered way as it used to. So what we're thinking, or the general feeling is that some of what we might be looking to do is to create events, one-off events that gather around. So that's one strand of that. We have a website address, we have a hosting platform, so we've got those things. We now need to build the apparatus around that, which obviously is huge amounts of work. We have no money, so there's that kind of stuff that's what we're grappling with really. We are also looking at probably to put together in the near future something that we're going to be calling a steering group, because we're conscious that. And that probably relates back to that diversity question. How can we have a group of people that hold us to account, that say, look, hang on, you said that you're trying to do these things, and actually you're not doing any of that, or whatever. We're conscious that we need to have that probably in place almost before a lot of the other things happen, because we just need people that have got that high level look down and say, look, this is where your blind spots are, kind of thing. Anything else I've missed, Rob?
No, that's almost exactly spot on. I think I'm really I just want to pick up on something, if you don't mind, that you said, Chris, Foston. You said something about choosing a trail and then seeing. Can you remember precisely what you said?
No, but it was something. It was a long time ago, Rob. What do you?
Yeah, 2.5 minutes ago.
It was something like, it's better to set off and look for the trail we want to follow than it is just to sit and look for it where we are.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because
would you say, Chris, as well, that links into allowing yourself to change your mind once you're on that journey as well? Would you say that's
Yeah.
No, I just really like that idea of. I think Chris G and I are very conscious of. We've talked quite a lot. I won't say a lot, but quite a lot, and actually setting off down a trail. It seems like taking some action I suspect would be better than doing nothing, because taking some action actually might draw some of this stuff out that we're trying to
I mean,
clarify, if we want, or
taking some action gives you something to change and gives
yes,
you something to work with. Whereas if we just spend, the next 10 years talking about what it could be, that's still all
yes.
hypothetical,
Chris,
and there's
Chris,
nothing.
I was a social worker for 30 years. That's all we did.
Yeah. And look where we are now, Chris.
Exactly.
Blessed NHS.
Yeah. The other thing I would add to the idea of a steering group, this might be jumping too far ahead, is that I think we need some kind of editorial, and that's not in a sense of somebody has to read every word of everything to make sure it's all perfect, but in a sense of this isn't going to destroy credibility.
No,
for us as a
absolutely.
group.
I should have said the other bit of the apparatus, and that's not the right word, the structure that we had in mind was a core and then a set of hubs. So the hubs, for example, one hub might be poetry, one hub might be music, one hub might be just the live events or whatever, and then but those hubs only develop when we've got the people and energy to make them happen, and then those hubs form an editorial kind of responsibility. They take the responsibility of gathering resources, of kind of weighing it against the sort of materials that we're looking for, and all, et cetera, et cetera. That's very, very roughly where we're thinking at the moment. But is that what you mean by the editorial stuff? Or, I mean, I think that still has to relate to the centre idea of what Proust is about.
Yeah, I think so. I think there just needs to be some way of there being some kind of creative responsibility amongst everyone to make sure that it's not just being used as a self-publishing platform by people who want to just get their stuff out whichever way they can.
Amen, brother.
And it
Amen.
fits with a vague, whatever vague definition we want to use, it fits within that.
Yeah.
What about creating a definition? Create that definition, a definition. You can create multiple definitions, right? But create them. So that's the work that you could do to kickstart this. And then you wouldn't just have to use our own personal networks, but what about trying internet advertising? So like Facebook or Instagram advertising to reach a wider audience based on certain interests like spirituality or those kind of things. And actually say we're looking for creatives. We're looking for creatives who are interested in X, Y, and Z, and this is spend a tenner on it, see what happens. I don't know, like that.
I'm just conscious that we're now throwing out really good ideas, and I'm not recording.
Oh yeah.
It says you're recording in the top corner.
Oh, does it?
Does it?
Yeah.
So
it
is.
It was Michaela. It was Michaela.
No, I did nothing. It's a good job you weren't all talking about somebody, isn't it?
Right. Well, I've no idea what we've recorded and what we haven't recorded.
Did you not pause it? Maybe
you
when
probably didn't pause it.
Oh, maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. We'll find out.
Well, hang on. Okay, so let's just react to. I agree with what you're saying, Chris Foston, about that anything that gets produced or submitted, shall we say, has to meet some sort of criteria. We've suggested that we're struggling to break out of perhaps a certain box that we find ourselves in. Ant has then just said, has just thrown something into the middle and just let it explode, which is, why don't we actually put something out there and say, okay, creatives, come and find us, or we're now going out to find them. How do people feel about that? Because it wouldn't have crossed my mind, and it fills me with terror. But there we go.
I don't think we're ready for that quite yet, but I think there may well come a point where that's exactly what we need to do. Kayla?
I think Chris Foston, though, might be right, and Ant's kind of, we're all on a bit of a kind of spectrum, but the kind of agitation, if you know what I mean, that kind of feeling of let's just start something, let's just get on the trail that Chris said. and then Ant's got the action for that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Between the three kind of levels of activity, if you like, is probably going up a level from where we are now, I suppose, is kind of what we need.
I think we're simultaneously talking about two strands of the same thing. We're talking about putting together a network of creatives to produce this stuff. And then we're talking about the apparatus to get that stuff out. And it's the same thing, but it needs,
Yes.
they're two different conversations. And I think, I don't think there is a better way at the moment of creating that network or inviting people into that network than using social media to do it at the moment. And it is, I mean, if we do it right, then we'll be reaching places that we don't necessarily know we're reaching or didn't really know we could reach just through our own personal bubbles. And then the other stuff is about how we organize that network and produce the stuff rather than gather people to the hubs.
You might need to offer something before you try and widen the network. As I say, we have this, and we're looking for people to be part of this
that's my
thing.
feeling.
Here's a thing.
Yeah.
But it would, doing that is undoubtedly going to increase the diversity of the group.
Yeah. Which is both necessary and potentially dangerous, in the sense that if we're not quite clear about what we're about and what we're for, then that sort of opens us up to kind of all sorts of things that we're not necessarily ready for.
But then on the opportunity for submission, there needs to be like a set of values. These are the values we adhere to. Please make sure you understand and agree to these, because this is where we're from. This is who we are, and these are the creatives we're looking for.
And also, if you kind of cast the net wider at this point to get more people involved to make things happen, you can guide that. You can work that out through conversation. If somebody's going to be at least good enough fit, none of us are perfect. So, and as time goes on, people will disconnect, won't they, if it's not feeling quite right. But if you spend too long, kind of, it's really important, I know, to get words right and all of those things. But
it's almost like a list of what you don't want. So, we don't want hatred. We don't want radicalization. We don't want someone saying that this group's wrong or that group's wrong. So as long as you don't do those things, we're happy to hear what you've got.
Well, I wonder whether, what we're talking about setting up is a community, basically, and lots of communities, faith communities, have rules of life that they live by. And I think that's what we're talking about now. And I'm not talking about like a strict spiritual
I get you.
rule of life. I think we're talking about, a list of things we want people to be able to feel they can do here and ways they can do it. And maybe that's what we need to be defining more than anything else.
I think what you're saying, Chris, is we need an ethos.
Interestingly enough, we have bought a web address.
I thought you were going to say we bought an ethos.
We bought an ethos. Yes.
Where did you go to buy an ethos?
It was going cheap on eBay.
Show me the shop.
But the web address, after conversations with Ant, is actually Proust.community. So we now own the web address of Proust.
We own what, Chris? Sorry, I missed that last
Proust.community.
Okay.
So that will be our new. Should we ever get to the point of having the web sorted out, right. We also have a hosting package.
Oh, I can see it. It's on WordPress, and there you are.
Well, you can see it. We've done nothing with it yet at all. It's just there. So yeah, I
feel proud right now of you guys.
Well done, Ant. Well done.
Thanks,
you have what's it called when you make it happen, when you think it into being
tangible.
No, you've made it. You've magicked it into a thing.
I'm afraid I don't know what a hosting package is, but we'll learn.
Yeah, I mean, just I suppose this would be a really good point in my mind, anyway. Just to talk a little bit about what we need.
Yes, I agree.
Because we haven't, so far what we've done with nothing. the bits and pieces of money we've spent just because you have to do, you have to buy a little bit of something. But really, if we are talking about an architecture which is a web platform which allows us to gather resources and make connections and all the rest of it, then there's a set of resources that are needed to be around that in terms of time, if nothing else, and in terms of ideally some money which would allow us to kind of buy some professional services. Secondly, there is the hubs that we've briefly mentioned. So if we're talking about gathering, a sub-community of musicians together, or a sub-community of writers together, or a sub-community of liturgists together, or whatever, then we need those people to be connecting and coalescing and allowing that to happen. There's the issue. There's the whole idea of what we are, what we constitute ourselves as. Again, Rob and I have begun some discussions about that, and there's another friend of ours who's got some knowledge of that. But again, if other people say, look, I know all about all this stuff of what a cooperative is, how that's different from a company limited by a guarantee, how that's different from, a charity, then those things are significant, because, for example, you can apply for grants if you're a charity, or a certain kind of organization. You can't if you're not. So that those things do become really important if we're seeking to showcase other ideas. So, and then finally is the issue of money. We need to think about, we do have a Patreon account which we haven't plugged into anything yet, but we will do that at some point. But yeah, so they're the sorts of things that we know we need help with. Michaela?
Yeah, I guess kind of going back a step about making things happen, the Patreon, maybe that needs to be further up the list, because that might be a way of bringing in some money for the next step.
Yeah, I have to say, Michaela, I'm on the same wavelength as you there, because literally when I went to get my glass of wine, I was thinking what we need is Patreon. So I think I would be wanting to, particularly you've got podcasts going out right now. And actually, there's, loads of podcasts that you listen to. They, at the end of it, they say, you want to support us, Patreon, sign up here, So maybe that does need to be. I've got no idea how that works, but
we have got an account in the sense that we've set up an account in the name of Proust. The reason it's not, I haven't plugged it in quite yet, is that Rob and I had a conversation a week or so ago where we're talking about, because obviously that money comes into a bank account. We can't set up a bank account as Proust, so because we're not an organization that's constituted in any kind of way. So at the moment that will have to come into someone's personal bank account. So we just wanted to be open about how we did that, and let everybody know that at the moment that's probably our only option, is that will come into our Rob's account, and if he has any sudden suspicious foreign holidays, we'll know what's going on.
We obviously decided to put it into Jersey because it's really safe and isn't a tax haven at all.
Lovely.
If next time you log in, you've got palm trees behind you, we'll know.
We'll know. Yeah. Do we? If we were looking at, I don't know what the options, the differences are between all the various different kind of titles for different groups, but a charity, I don't know what it takes to become one. Whether
we do have a person that knows about this stuff. All of these things take huge amounts of work. Everything that you do is huge amounts of work, lots of paperwork, lots of registration documents. Even opening a bank account is huge amounts of work now.
You need trustees for a charity.
Yeah.
Well, that's also true. Yeah.
There's also, for a charity, you have to have audited accounts and all sorts of things. Yeah, so there are a number of different options as to which organisation we would go towards, but really we need to talk to an expert about that, and we do have access to people that know this stuff. So we will be. I guess what we need to do is probably have a bit of a discussion, maybe even a podcast where we talk about this thing in a little bit more detail. That'll be riveting, won't it?
But moving it forward, just seeing where it could go with people is worth looking at before
Yeah.
doing that. Just an example of that. I'm currently toying with creating a Kickstarter game, like a card game, like a board game type thing, just as a different project, something for fun. That found a really good artist to work with, and I'd love to do that with her. And I think, but we're talking to a company about this in the States who are professional people who work with Kickstarter projects. You pay them, and they basically hold your hand through the whole process, and they give you tools and marketing lists to work with that you can engage with. What they said was, before you do anything, when you're ready, when your game is ready, we create multiple adverts, and we spend, I don't know, they said you need to spend $1,000 or $1,500, I think they said to me. You need to spend that on A/B advertising tests to see which ones work better than others. And only then is it worth pursuing, taking it forward. Whatever you do, don't just try something straight off. You have to test before, you have to test the water before you go in, basically is what they were saying. I thought it was really interesting.
Wow.
Okay, help me understand that, and a bit more. So you've got a game, let's say, you've got a game, and you want to see
You want to sell it through crowdfunding,
right?
So people give you money before so that then you can manufacture it.
Yes,
That's the idea. So then this company said, whatever you do, don't just launch into it. You have to take some time and spend some money to test, to create different versions, different types of adverts, and you test and then you pay a certain amount of money to get those visible on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and then you test which ones are most effective. So you'll see which ones get more results than others, more clicks, more engagements, more likes, that kind of things. And that then is the direction you should pursue from that point on.
Wow.
Don't just guess what people are going to do.
It's I mean, having, obviously we run a small business, so Michaela is the one that sits in front of webinars talking about the minutiae of how you use social media as a business tool. And it's like created a new industry, hasn't it? There's a whole.
It has created a new industry. It totally has.
There are people now who are going to university to learn how to do this stuff, and it's crazy. It didn't exist even like 10 years ago, and suddenly it's huge.
I guess the difference is, though, this is like, you and Rob taking this forward with hopefully all of our support, but you're not doing this to earn a living. So it is, getting the balance right, isn't it? We're doing what needs to be done, but you've already spent so much time on it, you two already.
So we haven't got lives. It's so good.
The next thing would probably be, in my mind, to have that podcast with Matt Caldecott, who I think is the person you're talking about that knows about the different setups. And then, just between us, we can say, pros and cons of each one, which one should we go for, and just get started, and then get the bank account, and then, just kind of make that. And I think I know you're right about, how you publicize things. I mean, going back to the question of diversity, if the first picture that people see is of a particular human being, and what do they look like, and what age are they, and what gender are they, and all of those things will matter. And so if we get to the point where we're trying to reach out, then we need to have some diversity in that and do those kind of test runs and things. But I suppose at this point we can get some of the basics done without those more complicated steps, because it's just behind the scenes stuff, and it will matter whether it's a charity or a company or whatever will matter. I know it will, but we probably need to hear from an expert about what the pros and cons of each one are.
The other words which Ant used are crowdfunder And I'd forgotten about that as well. That is probably something else that we could be thinking about now, Rob.
Yeah, I think so. But I think people will really want to get behind this, because we know how it's touched all of us, that you know, that there will be a place that's, you know, like James said, it's not, there's no hard sell of anything, there's no judgment, there's no hatred, there's, you know, all of those things. I think people will want to get behind something like that is inclusive and generous, but they just need to hear about it.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's take stock then. It's now 10 to 9. Well, I don't know what it is over where you are, James. What time is it with you? You're muted, but you're probably just worn out.
Sorry, I was eating a banana. 10 to 6 in the morning.
Oh my word! Yeah. Well, good morning.
It's almost morning now.
It is. Yes, the light's creeping
Almost,
up into his freezing den down there. Yeah. So I think we're probably done for today. Just beyond just reflecting where we've got to, because I think that's actually been a really good discussion.
It has.
Do other people feel the same? Or Chris has had to go, by the way, I see. So hopefully he feels the same.
I think you made a good point, Chris. And I don't know what your surname is, sorry.
Oh, mine, it's Goen. Goen is myself.
Goen. Yes. Okay, yeah. All right, that makes sense now. When Rob said earlier on, and I thought, I wonder what Goen is. Anyway,
it's a
when you
curry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you said about the different hubs, that was the word you used, wasn't it? Where you might have like poets or whatever. Are you guys familiar with Malcolm Gladwell at all? Anyone come across Malcolm Gladwell?
I know the name, absolutely.
Look him up. He's a really fascinating writer. And he basically takes things that have happened that have either been true or recorded as true, and he analyzes it. Because I'm very scientific in the way that I think, so I love anything that analyzes and looks at all different angles and perspectives. And he talks about how this marketing guy was employed by a pasta sauce company to develop the perfect pasta sauce, because they thought they were going to cream the market and all the rest of it. And basically within, paid a lot of money for this person. And the story, the way he tells it, is that essentially this guy just came back and said, "You've got it all wrong. It's the perfect pasta sauces with an S, which is why we have chunky vegetable, small vegetable, no vegetable, spicy vegetable, organic vegetable, whatever." Because the point is that you can't satisfy every person with one model. And that's the issue that the church is fallen into, that it thinks that the message of Jesus is acceptable for all people. Well, it is, in that it's universal, but the context means that I don't think it's healthy language to say things like people on the outside of church, because that immediately paints this picture that there's this or there's that, there's this right or there's this wrong. It's not. They're churches. And so what you've alluded to there is these little groups of having photographers, painters, poets. They don't have to be all intermingled. And obviously there will be some intermingling and crossovers and interconnectedness. Of course there will. But that's probably quite a good starting point, that all these individual groups and their passions are served to what they already, believe and hold dear, not trying to make it that they have to be part of a broader thing or whatever. So having a specialized angle for each section might be a good starting point.
Yeah, I mean, it might be that the intermingling is the Proust Live events, or it might be that we actually look down the line to create kind of bringing together different disciplines to see what emerges from that as well, and we look to curate that in a more
Yeah, definitely.
Chris, you could fill my lifetime's ambition of becoming a vlogger. I am joking.
A vlogger,
whatever that is.
A vlogger.
Yeah, my godson's into
a vlogger, not a flogger. That's a whole different kind of thing, Ali. I'm not sure you want to go down that route.
No.
Well, on that note, I think
Yeah,
that we have to
on a
finish and
positive
go and do
note.
some flogging. Thanks very much, everyone.
Yes.
I will
Okay.
stop
been great.
recording, and
Chris,
who knows?
Michaela, quickly, can I ask you before? Oh, he's gone.
No, I
Michaela,
haven't. I'm still here.
you haven't. What time's Friday?